Welcome to my channel. Subscribe to hear the latest story.
When my sister's fiancé asked what I do for work, she cut me off. Lie this time so you don't sound so pathetic. My parents laughed. I just smiled. At the wedding, I did this and watched their whole act fall apart. Sup Reddit. My family spent years treating me like dirt. When my sister introduced me to her fiancé, they humiliated me in front of him. So at the wedding, I did something that wrecked their perfect little show and let karma handle the rest. Grab your snacks and enjoy. Name's Mateo, 29 male. I run a custom metal fabrication shop in Boulder Ridge, Montana. I make gates, railings, decorative metal work, custom furniture, whatever people need that involves welding and steel. Started it myself 4 years ago in a rented garage bay. Now I've got my own shop, 3 welding rigs, and enough steady work that I bought a house last year. Not bad for a guy who skipped college. But to my family, I'm basically a grease monkey who plays with fire for a living. My older brother Troy is 34, works in commercial real estate in Denver, makes good money, has the wife and 2 kids, drives a Lexus he leases but pretends he bought. Then there's my sister Alina, She's 24, and she's been my mother's golden child since the day she figured out how to work a smile to her advantage. Got her business degree from Colorado State, works some mid-level position at a marketing agency in Fort Collins, and acts like she's running the whole company. My parents, Lenny and Susan, treat her like she invented sliced bread. Me? I'm the project that didn't pan out. Sunday dinners at their place in Bozeman were a monthly thing. I usually showed up, ate Dad's overcooked steaks, listened to Troy talk about interest rates, and left before dessert. Standard procedure. This time felt off the second I walked in. Alina was there early, which was weird. She's chronically late to everything. But there she was, hovering by the kitchen in a fancy dress, checking her phone every 30 seconds like she was expecting news from the president. Mateo, Mom said when I walked in, barely looking up from the salad she was tearing apart. You're on time for once. Miracle of modern science, I said, setting a 6-pack of local soda on the counter. She frowned at it. We have sparkling water, and now you have soda too. Variety. Dad was outside prepping the grill, wearing his ridiculous kiss the cook apron. Troy and his wife Raina were already set up in the living room, their kids destroying a bowl of pretzels while glued to an iPad. Everything normal. Then the doorbell rang. Alina practically jumped off the couch. That's Blake! Blake, the fiancé none of us had met yet. She'd been dropping hints for weeks about this guy. How successful he was. How mature. How different from her usual types. The door opened and in walked a dude who looked like he'd stepped out of a Nordstrom catalog. Nice pants, button-down shirt, expensive watch, hair done up. He smiled like he was running for mayor. Everyone, this is Blake, Alina announced, practically glowing. Blake, this is my family. Handshakes all around. Mom did her whole gracious hostess routine. Dad gave him the firm grip and the nod of approval. Troy sized him up like he was evaluating a property investment. Blake handled it all without breaking a sweat, complimenting the house, praising the smell of the grill, laughing at Dad's terrible jokes. Then he got to me. Mateo, right? He said, extending his hand. Good to meet you, man. I shook it. Likewise. Alina's told me a lot about you. You do metalwork or something? Before I could answer, Alina jumped in. Mateo has a welding business. He makes fences and stuff. And stuff, I repeated, keeping my face neutral. Blake nodded. That's cool. Manual labor, right? Something like that, I said. We all moved to the dining room. Dad brought in the steaks. Mom fussed over side dishes. Troy poured drinks for everyone except me, and Blake settled in like he'd been coming to these dinners for years. The whole meal was basically them pretending I wasn't there. Blake would tell a story about closing some deal for his consulting firm, and everyone would lean in, nodding, asking follow-up questions. When I mentioned finishing a custom railing job for a bed and breakfast downtown, Mom literally changed the subject mid-sentence. That's nice, dear. Blake, tell us more about your trip to Seattle. It kept happening, like I was background noise. Then came the moment that set me off. Blake turned to me, probably trying to be polite. So, Mateo, what exactly do you do? Like day-to-day? I started to answer. I run a custom fabrication shop. I design and build... Mom cut me off. Oh, don't ask him that, Blake. He'll bore you to death talking about welding torches and metal grades. The table laughed. The kind that say, we're all in on the joke. Troy snorted into his drink. Unless you need a garden gate, you're probably not interested. More laughs. Dad grinned. Even Raina smiled a little. Then, Alina leaned back in her chair and said, "Maybe lie this time, Mateo. Tell him you're in construction or manufacturing. So you don't sound so pathetic." The room went quiet for half a second. Then, Mom giggled nervously. Dad coughed. Troy shook his head like classic Alina. Blake looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I sat there, fork in hand, looking at my little sister. At the people who were supposed to be my family laughing at me like I was the entertainment. And something inside me shut off. I set my fork down carefully. Then I smiled. "You're right, Alina. Wouldn't want to embarrass anyone." She looked satisfied, like she'd won something. I finished my drink in silence while they went back to fawning over Blake. Listened to him talk about his condo in Fort Collins and his car and his networking events. Watched my parents hang on every word. 20 minutes later, I stood up. "I'm heading out. Early job tomorrow." Mom looked up. "Already? We haven't even had dessert." "I'm good. Thanks for dinner." I grabbed my jacket, walked out, got in my truck, and drove home. And the whole time I kept replaying that moment. The laughs. The dismissal. The way Alina said pathetic like it was just a fact. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I wasn't angry anymore. I was motivated. I didn't hear from any of them for 2 weeks. No calls, no texts, not even the usual group chat noise about whose turn it was to host Thanksgiving. Just silence. Fine by me. I had work. I was in the shop finishing a set of custom gates for a ranch property when Dutch walked in. Dutch Holloway runs the welding supply shop in town, sold me half my equipment, and has become something close to a friend over the years. Former Navy, built like a bulldog, and doesn't sugarcoat anything. "Those look good," he said, eyeing the gates. "Client gonna actually pay you this time? Already got half up front." Smart man. He dropped a bag of electrode rods on my workbench. "Heard your sister's getting married." I looked up. "Where'd you hear that?" "Town gossip. Apparently it's gonna be some big thing at Clearwater Estate. My niece works catering there. Said they booked it out for a whole weekend in June." Clearwater Estate. That was the fancy wedding venue outside of town. The place with the lake and the gardens and the price tag that made normal people laugh. "Good for her," I said, going back to my work. Dutch leaned against the bench. "You don't sound thrilled." "I'm not invited yet. Give it time," he snorted. "Families like that, huh? You have no idea." That conversation stuck with me, though, because if Alina was planning some massive wedding at Clearwater, that meant money, and my parents weren't exactly rolling in cash. Dad's retired from his county job. Mom worked part-time at a dental office. Comfortable, but not weekend wedding at the most expensive venue in the valley. Comfortable. Which got me thinking about something I hadn't thought about in years. Grandpa Eddie, my dad's father, died when I was 24. He was a machinist, worked in the trades his whole life, and he was the only person in my family who ever got what I was doing. When I told him I was starting my own shop, he got this look in his eyes. Pride. He'd set up trust accounts for all 3 of us grandkids. Not huge amounts, but enough to help. Mine was supposed to be around 35 grand, meant for me to use when I turned 25, earmarked for business or education. I'd assumed my parents had put it toward the shop somehow, but I'd never actually checked. I was 24 when he died, neck deep in trying to launch my business, and I'd honestly forgotten about it in the chaos. That night, I went home and dug through my filing cabinet until I found the paperwork from Grandpa's estate. Took me an hour to locate the trust documents. When I finally found them and called the bank the next morning, I got transferred 3 times before reaching someone who could actually help. "I need information on a trust account that was set up in 2019, I said. "Should have been dispersed when I turned 25. The woman put me on hold. Came back 5 minutes later. "I'm showing that account was closed in 2021. Funds were dispersed to the secondary account holder." My grip tightened on the phone. "Who was the secondary holder?" "Lenny Duarte." "Are you related?" "Lenny Duarte." "My father." "Yeah," I said slowly. "I'm related. Can you tell me how much was dispersed?" $34,800. I thanked her, hung up, and sat there in my truck staring at nothing. 35 grand. Money my grandfather left specifically for me. Money that was supposed to help me build my business. And my dad had taken it without saying a word. I called the house that evening. Mom answered. "Mateo, hi, sweetie. We were just talking about you. I need to talk to Dad. He's watching the game. Can I have him call you back?" "No. Put him on." Something in my voice made her pause. "Is everything okay?" "Put him on the phone, Mom." She did. Dad picked up sounding annoyed. "What's up, Mateo?" "Grandpa Eddie's trust fund. The one he set up for me." "Where'd it go?" Long silence. "We used it," he said finally. "For what?" Another pause. "We needed it. Troy's kids had medical bills. Your mother had that dental surgery. Things came up. Things came up. I repeated it slowly. That money was left to me, for my business. And we're your family. We all help each other out. Did Troy know? Did Alina? This isn't a conversation for the phone. Did they get their money? He sighed, like I was being unreasonable. Troy used his for his house down payment. Alina's was put toward her student loans and other expenses. That was a nice way of saying they gave her everything and took mine to cover their bills. So everyone got theirs except me. We were planning to pay you back. When? When we could. I laughed. Right. And how much have you paid back so far? Silence. That's what I thought. I started my truck. We'll talk about this later. Mateo, don't make this a big deal. It's family money. No, I said. It was my money. I hung up before he could respond. For the next few days, I didn't reach out. Let them stew. Meanwhile, I kept working, kept my head down, and I started thinking. 35 grand. That was almost exactly what a high-end wedding at Clearwater Estate cost for a weekend. I knew because Dutch's niece had mentioned the price tag when she told him about Alina's booking. So Alina gets her dream wedding. Troy gets his house. I get my inheritance stolen to cover their expenses. Yeah, that wasn't going to stand. Then 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Mateo Duarte, the metal fabricator? Speaking. Hi, this is Kristen Valdez. I'm the venue coordinator at Clearwater Estate. I got your name from Dutch Holloway. We have a bit of an emergency situation, and we need a custom metalworker ASAP. I sat up straighter. What kind of emergency? We have a wedding in 6 weeks. Big event. The couple commissioned this elaborate metal arbor for the ceremony. Custom piece, very expensive. The original fabricator backed out last minute. Claimed the design was too complex, couldn't deliver in time. We're scrambling to find someone who can take over the project. 6 weeks is tight. I know, but Dutch said you're the best in the area. And honestly, you're our only option. Every other shop is booked or doesn't have the skills for this level of detail. I leaned back in my chair. What's the design? She described it. 10-foot decorative steel arbor with scrollwork, integrated lighting, custom powder coating, ceremony centerpiece, structural and aesthetic. Challenging but not impossible. When do you need an answer? Yesterday, she said. The bride is losing her mind. This arbor is literally the focal point of her entire ceremony. Without it, she's talking about canceling. Something clicked in my head. What's the bride's name? Alina Duarte. Do you know her? I smiled, slowly. Yeah, I know her. She's my sister. Kristen went quiet. Oh, is that going to be a problem? Not at all, I said. Send me the specs. I'll take a look and get back to you tomorrow. Thank you. Seriously, you're a lifesaver. I hung up and sat there in my shop, surrounded by steel and sparks and the smell of welding flux, and I started laughing, because the universe had just handed me exactly what I needed. Leverage. The design specs Kristen sent over were ambitious. Elaborate scrollwork, integrated LED lighting, structural stability for outdoor installation, custom bronze powder coating, the kind of thing that takes skill, time, and precision. The original fabricator hadn't backed out because it was too complex. He'd backed out because Alina probably made his life a nightmare with changes and demands. I could do it. Easily. But that wasn't the point. I called Kristen back the next morning. I looked over the plans. It's doable, but 6 weeks is really tight for this level of detail. Can you do it? Yeah. But it's going to cost more than the original quote. How much more? The original fabricator had quoted 18 grand, probably underbid to get the job. 28,000, half up front, half on delivery. She whistled. That's steep. You want it done right or done cheap? I can promise you won't find anyone else who can deliver in 6 weeks. Long pause. Let me talk to the bride and get back to you. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Alina. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hey, Mateo. Her voice was tight, stressed. I need to talk to you about something. I'm listening. The venue coordinator said you might be able to help with a metalwork issue for my wedding. The arbor. Yeah. I looked at the specs. Can you do it? I leaned back in my chair, boots on the desk. I can. Question is whether you want me to. What's that supposed to mean? Last time we talked, you said I sounded pathetic. Just wondering if you want pathetic metalwork at your dream wedding. Silence. That was a joke, Mateo. Was it? Everyone laughed. She exhaled hard. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I was showing off in front of Blake. It was stupid. Can we please move past it? I really need your help. 28,000. What? That's my price. Half up front. Take it or leave it. That's insane. The other guy quoted 20. The other guy bailed. I'm your only option. So 28 Or you get married under a bare metal frame from a rental company. I could hear her breathing, trying to control herself. I need to talk to Blake. Let me know by tomorrow. I hung up. That evening, Dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail about family helping family. I deleted it. The next morning, Kristen called. Alina agreed to your price. She's not happy about it, but she agreed. Smart choice. Smart. There's one condition, though. She wants to be involved in the process. Check-ins, progress updates, that kind of thing. I smiled. No. What? I don't do client check-ins for rush jobs. She'll get updates through you. Delivery is in 6 weeks. If she wants to micromanage, she can find someone else. Kristen paused. I'll let her know. 20 minutes later, Kristen called back. She agreed. No check-ins. You deliver on time, she pays the balance. Deal? Deal. I'll need the deposit by end of week. I'll make it happen. The deposit hit my account 3 days later. 14 grand. I stared at it for a while. Then I called my dad. He answered on the second ring. Mateo, I'm doing Alina's arbor. Good. That's good. She needs, and I want my money back. 35 grand. With interest. Silence. Mateo, we don't have that kind of cash lying around. Figure it out. You found money for Alina's wedding. You found money for Troy's house. We didn't. If I don't see movement by the end of the month, I'm having a conversation with Blake's family at the wedding. You wouldn't. Try me. I hung up. Dutch came by the shop later that day while I was sketching out the arbor design. Heard you took the Clearwater job, he said. Word travels fast. Small town. Also heard it's your sister's wedding. Yep. He looked at the sketches. You charging her full rate? More than full rate. He grinned. Good. Family discount goes both ways. They treat you like dirt. You charge them like gold. Something like that. He nodded slowly. Just don't do anything that'll come back on you. You're building a reputation here. Don't trash it for revenge. I'm not trashing anything. I'm doing the job. Professional, high quality. Exactly what she's paying for. And maybe I'm making them squirm a little in the process. He clapped me on the shoulder. That's my boy. The next several weeks were a blur. I worked on the arbor during the day, normal jobs at night and weekends. The design was coming together clean. Strong welds, smooth scroll work, integrated LED housing that looked seamless. It was probably the best piece I'd ever built. Halfway through, Mom called. Your father wants to talk about the money. I'm listening. He thinks we can do a payment plan. $1,000 a month. I did the math. 3 years. Not good enough. Half by the wedding. The rest within 6 months. That's not realistic. Then sell something. Refinance. You took it. You figure it out. She went quiet. We needed it for emergencies. Alina's wedding isn't an emergency. I hung up and went back to work. 3 days before the wedding, the arbor was finished. Perfect welds, flawless powder coating, LED lighting that could shift through 12 different colors. It was stunning. Even Dutch whistled when he saw it. I loaded it into my truck the next morning. Drove out to Clearwater Estate. Kristen met me at the venue, looking stressed but relieved. Oh, thank God, she said when she saw it. It's beautiful. Where do you want it? She directed me to the ceremony site. Lake view, sunset backdrop, stone pathway. I spent 3 hours installing it, making sure it was level, stable, wired properly. When I finished, it looked like it had grown there naturally. Kristen stood back and stared. Alina's going to cry when she sees this. Probably. You did amazing work. I know. She smiled, handed me an envelope. Final payment, certified check. She insisted I give it to you in person so there was proof of delivery. I opened it. 14 grand. Exactly right. Tell her it was a pleasure doing business. I got back in my truck and drove home. And the whole time I was smiling. Because the arbor wasn't the revenge. It was just the opening move. The wedding was on Saturday. I wasn't planning to go. Hadn't gotten an official invitation. Hadn't heard anything from Alina except the payment confirmation through Kristen. Figured I was still on the blacklist. Then Thursday morning, Mom called. Your father and I discussed the money situation. We can give you $15,000 by the wedding. The rest over the next year. Half was $17,500. You're short. It's the best we can do right now. We had to pull from savings. What about the rest? Monthly payments. $500 a month. 4 years for 20 grand. Not good enough. Mateo, we're trying. Full amount or I make a speech at the wedding. Long silence. You wouldn't do that to your sister. Watch me. She hung up. 10 minutes later, Dad called. What do you want from us? He sounded tired. What's mine? We can get you 20 by Saturday. That's it. That's everything we can pull together. 20,000. Still short, but closer. And the rest? You're going to have to accept payments. I thought about it. 20 grand now was better than promises later. Fine. 20 by Saturday morning. Cashier's check. The rest on a signed payment plan with interest. Interest? You had my money for 4 years. 3%. Take it or leave it. Long pause. Fine. You'll have it Saturday morning. Good. And I'll be at the wedding. You're invited. Alina wanted to tell you herself, but I don't care. I'll be there. Front row. I hung up and immediately called Dutch. You busy Saturday? Depends. Why? Need a +1 for a wedding. He laughed. Your sister's wedding? Yep. This gonna be entertaining? Probably. I'm in. Saturday morning, Dad showed up at my shop. Alone. 20,000. Certified check. I opened it. Verified the amount. Payment plan? He handed me another paper. Printed contract. 15,000 remaining. Paid over 18 months at 3% interest. I read it twice. Signed it. Handed him a copy. Pleasure doing business. He looked at me for a long moment. You've changed. Nope. I just stopped pretending. He left without another word. Dutch picked me up at 2. He showed up in a suit that looked like it had been tailored by someone who understood how to dress a guy built like a tank. You clean up nice, I said. Navy taught me how to dress for funerals and weddings. Sometimes they're the same thing. We drove to Clearwater Estate in his truck. The venue looked like something out of a magazine. White tents, flower arrangements everywhere, string lights in the trees, expensive cars, the whole show. We parked and walked toward the ceremony area. That's when I saw it. The arbor stood at the end of the stone pathway, overlooking the lake, exactly where I'd installed it. The afternoon sun hit the metalwork perfectly, making the bronze coating glow. The scrollwork cast intricate shadows. It looked incredible. Standing in front of it, taking photos, was Alina in her wedding dress. She looked good. Blake stood next to her in a gray tux. Then Alina saw me. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then she recovered, said something to Blake, and started walking over. Mateo, she said when she got close. Her voice was careful. You came. Wouldn't miss it. She glanced at Dutch. And you brought a guest. Dutch, he said, extending his hand. Friend of Mateo's. She shook it awkwardly. Well, thank you for coming, both of you. The arbor looks good, I said. Her face softened slightly. It's perfect, seriously. Everyone's been commenting on it. You did amazing work. I know. The smile tightened. Well, the ceremony starts in 20 minutes. You should find your seats. We found our seats. Mom and Dad were already there, sitting stiff. Mom glanced at me, then looked away. Dad stared straight ahead. Troy leaned over. Didn't think you'd show. Surprise. The ceremony started 10 minutes later. Alina walked down the aisle on Dad's arm. They met under the arbor I'd built. Standard vows, ring exchange, kiss. Everyone clapped. Dutch leaned over. So when does the chaos start? Patience. We followed the crowd to the reception tent. Refreshments, fancy tables, string quartet. I grabbed a drink. We found a table near the back and watched. Then came the speeches from the parents. Dad stood up. I want to thank everyone for being here today, he started. Alina and Blake, you two are starting an incredible journey together. He paused, glanced at me, looked away quickly. This wedding represents a lot of things. Love, commitment, family, and it's been a family effort to make it happen. I felt Dutch tense next to me. That's what family does. We sacrifice for each other. I took a sip of my drink. Everyone raised their glasses. Dad sat down, and I stood up. The room went quiet. I'd like to say something too, I said. Alina's eyes went wide. Mom's face went pale. Sit down, Mateo, Dad said quietly. I'll be quick. I raised my drink. I just want to toast the happy couple and acknowledge the family support Dad mentioned. I looked at Alina, then at my parents. Grandpa Eddie would have been real proud to know his money went towards something this beautiful. Dead silence. Mom stood up. Mateo, that's enough. Is it, though? Dad just gave this speech about family sacrifice. Seems appropriate to mention that some sacrificed more than others. Mateo, Alina hissed. Don't. Don't what? Don't mention that the 35 grand Grandpa left me somehow ended up funding your dream wedding? Blake's face changed. What's he talking about? Alina looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. I smiled. Ask your in-laws. I'm sure they'll explain. Then I set down my drink, looked at Dutch and said, Let's go. We walked out of that tent, past the shocked guests, past the string quartet that had stopped playing, past my parents who sat frozen at their table, and I didn't look back once. We made it halfway to Dutch's truck before I heard someone running behind us. Mateo, wait! I turned. Troy was jogging across the lawn, looking flustered and upset. What the heck was that? He said when he caught up. You just humiliated them in front of everyone. They humiliated themselves. I just pointed it out. His face was red. You couldn't let Alina have one day? One day where it wasn't about you? I laughed. This isn't about me. It's about 35 grand that wasn't theirs to take. We all have struggles, Mateo. Yeah? When you bought your house, did they steal your down payment? Did Alina get your trust fund? He didn't answer. Didn't think so. I turned toward the truck. You got your money. Dad said you got 20 grand this morning. And I'm still owed 15. With interest. Troy shook his head. You're unbelievable. I'm honest. There's a difference. He turned and walked back toward the tent. Dutch and I got in his truck and drove off. We didn't talk for the first 10 minutes. Finally, Dutch said, that was either the bravest or the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Probably both. Your sister looked like she wanted to murder you. Good. He dropped me off at my place. I thanked him, went inside, changed out of my dress clothes, and grabbed a drink. Sat on my porch and watched the sunset behind the mountains. My phone started buzzing around 7. Text after text. Calls I didn't answer. Voicemails I didn't listen to. Then around 9, someone knocked on my door. I opened it. Kristen from Clearwater Estate stood there looking exhausted. Can I come in? Sure. She stepped inside, looked around my place, then sat heavily on the couch. Heck of a wedding, she said. Sorry about the drama. Don't be, she smiled. Also, your sister tried to demand a partial refund on the arbor. I raised an eyebrow. What? Yeah. Said you embarrassed her and she shouldn't have to pay full price. What did you tell her? I told her she signed a contract. The arbor was delivered on time and exceeded specifications. What happened during the reception wasn't my problem or yours. I grinned. I like you. I like you too. You don't take nonsense from anyone. She stood up. I actually came by to offer you something. What? We're expanding the venue, adding a new event space with custom metalwork throughout. Railings, gates, decorative panels, lighting fixtures. Big project. 3 or 4 month timeline. Probably 100 grand total. I stared at her. You want me to do it? If you're interested, after seeing the arbor, I trust your work. You delivered exactly what you promised. On time, professionally. What about Alina? She's going to lose her mind. Kristen smiled. Alina doesn't get a say in my vendor contracts. And frankly, after watching her treat everyone like servants all weekend, I don't care what she thinks. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. I'm in. Good. I'll send you the specs next week. She left. I sat there on my couch, drink in hand, processing. 100 grand. 3 or 4 months of steady, high-profile work. The kind of project that would put my shop on the map. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. Text from Blake. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Just you and me. I stared at it. Thought about ignoring it. Then I replied. Fine. 10 a.m., Grizzly Peak coffee. He sent back a thumbs up. The next morning, I showed up 10 minutes early. Got a black coffee and sat at a corner table. Blake walked in right at 10, looking tired. He ordered something complicated, then sat down across from me. He took a sip. Alina's a mess. She locked herself in the bedroom last night. Won't talk to anyone. That's unfortunate. She thinks you hate her. I don't hate her. I just don't respect her. He blinked. That's harsh. She spent years treating me like I'm beneath her. Then she needed me, and suddenly I was useful. She didn't know about the money. Yeah, she did. Maybe not the details. But she knew. Blake looked down at his cup. I didn't know. If I had known, I would have said something. Would you? Or would you have just gone along with it because it was easier? He didn't answer. Look, I said. I don't have a problem with you. You seem decent enough. But you married into a family that treats people like assets. Eventually, they're going to treat you that way too. They're not that bad. Give it time. He sat back. What do you want from them? Nothing. I got my money. I said my piece. I'm done. Are you? Because it feels like you're still angry. I thought about that. I'm not angry. I'm just done. I'm building my life without them. Blake nodded. For what it's worth, the arbor was beautiful. Everyone said so. I know. He almost smiled. You don't do false modesty, do you? Why would I? I'm good at what I do. He stood up, extended his hand. Take care of yourself, Mateo. I shook it. You too. He left. I finished my coffee and went back to my shop. I felt light. The week after the wedding was quiet. No calls from my parents, no texts from Alina. Troy sent one message about me getting what I wanted and hoping it was worth it. I didn't reply. Dutch stopped by the shop Tuesday afternoon with sandwiches and drinks. Told me half the town was talking about the Duarte wedding blow-up. His niece apparently called it legendary. He also mentioned that Kristen had been bragging about hiring me for the expansion project. We sat on overturned buckets eating turkey clubs while he talked about success and proving yourself. Said when he got out of the Navy, he spent years thinking he had to prove himself to everyone. Took him a long time to realize the only person he needed to prove anything to was himself. Once he figured that out, everything got easier. He looked at me straight and said my family didn't know what I was capable of because they never bothered to look. That was their loss, not mine. Then he told me to finish my sandwich because I looked skinny. Work picked up over the next few weeks. The Clearwater project started in earnest. Kristen sent over detailed plans for the new event space. Custom railings, decorative gates, artistic panels, integrated lighting. I hired an assistant. Kid named Isaac, 23, fresh out of a welding program and eager to learn. Showed up on time, asked good questions, didn't complain about the grunt work. Dutch met him and said I was lucky because good help was hard to find. Told me not to work him to death. Around week 3 of the Clearwater project, I got another unexpected visitor. Alina showed up at the shop on a Thursday afternoon. She looked different. No makeup, jeans and a hoodie, hair in a ponytail. She knocked on the open bay door and waited for permission to enter. I set down my grinder and told her it was a free country. She walked in, looking around at the equipment, the works in progress, the organized chaos of a working shop. Mentioned how much I'd built since the last time she was here. I reminded her she'd never been here before. She said she wanted to apologize. For the wedding, for the comments at dinner, for everything. I didn't say anything. She kept talking, explaining she knew she'd been awful, but she was trying to make it right. Asked what would fix it. I looked at her. She seemed smaller somehow, less sure of herself. Time, I said. Consistent behavior. Actually treating me like I matter. Not just when you need something, but all the time. She nodded, said she could do that. We'll see. Before she left, she mentioned Blake had told her about the Clearwater project. Said it was huge and that I deserved it. Said my work was really good. I told her I knew. She gave me a weak smile. Then she left. The Clearwater project took 3 months. Isaac and I worked 6 days a week, sometimes 10-hour days, getting every detail right. Kristen checked in weekly, always impressed, always supportive. When we finally installed the last piece, a decorative panel near the main entrance, she stood back and stared. Said it was incredible, better than she'd imagined. Mentioned that other venues would see this and I'd get more work. She handed me the final payment. Certified check for 48 grand. Combined with the previous payments, the full 100 grand was accounted for. Pleasure doing business, I said. She thanked me for being reliable, for doing great work. 6 months after the wedding, things settled into a rhythm. My shop was busier than ever. The Clearwater project led to 3 more venue contracts. A restaurant renovation, custom gates for a ranch property, a decorative installation for a downtown office building. I hired a second assistant and started looking at bigger shop space. Dutch stopped by one Friday with drinks and news. Heard your sister's moving. I looked up from the intake forms I was filling out. Where? Denver. Blake got a promotion. Big job. They're relocating next month. Good for them. Alina had actually followed through on her apology. Just small things. She'd text every couple weeks, ask how work was going, send pictures of metalwork she saw and thought I'd like. Never asked for anything. It was progress. Slow, but real. My parents were a different story. After the wedding incident, they'd gone radio silent for 2 months. Then, Mom sent a carefully worded email about moving forward as a family and healing old wounds. I'd replied with a simple, okay, and left it at that. They paid the rest of what they owed me, well ahead of schedule. Sent the final check with a note from Dad that said, we should have done better. We're sorry. I cashed it. Didn't reply to the note. Troy and I had exactly one conversation after everything went down. He called me 3 months post-wedding. I talked to Dad about the money situation, he said. I didn't know they took yours to cover expenses. I thought everyone got their full amount. Now you know. Listen, I'm not asking you to forgive everyone and show up to Thanksgiving. I just want you to know I get it now. Why you were upset. Why you blew up at the wedding. Appreciate it. And for what it's worth, the arbor was sick. I smiled. I know. He laughed. You're still an arrogant jerk. Confident. There's a difference. That was the last time we talked. It was enough. That night I sat on my porch with a drink, watching the sun drop behind the mountains. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd gotten it right. Not the revenge. Just the proof that I was exactly where I needed to be. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.